Welcome back to the CommittedConservative.com. I'm Rich Kelsey. I'm committed and I'm a conservative. It's Fired Up Friday, and I know I've been slacking off. Not that I haven't been fired up, but I haven't been doing my Fired Up Friday videos, and I apologize. But you're back, and this one, well, this one's a good one. I'll tell you why this one's a good one. We're going to talk about a very complex set of circumstances. We're going to reduce it so you get it. We're going to make sure that you can tell it to other people so they can get it. Let's start with a very simple controversial phrase. If that bleeping bastard wins, we'll all hang from nooses. Who said that? Was it ever even uttered? You could check the facts. You could check the fact checkers. You could check the fact checkers that check fact checkers. But allegedly, Hillary Clinton threw a tirade after one of the debates and screamed that out, talking about, of course, Mr. Trump. And one has to ask oneself, and I've done this many times, in fact, I've written an article about this, why would anyone hang from nooses if one party won or one candidate won other than the other? Right? Why would anybody hang from nooses? But what has happened since the morning after the election? And remember, I have declared Donald Trump unfit. I have defended some of his actions as president because the mere fact that he exists doesn't mean I get up every day to hate him or destroy him. So I'm by no means a Trumper, but I also don't wake up every day dreaming about cutting his head off and impeaching him for things that are not impeachable. But what's been going on here in this country is remarkable. Since the morning of his election, a coordinated, full frontal assault on Donald Trump, his administration, and frankly, the American people. And I mean all of them, but mostly those who voted for Mr. Trump. It has been a war. It is a war on Trump, and I've written about the war on Trump. And we've never, in the history of this country, not until we go back to the election of Lincoln, have we seen such division after the election of a president. It was calculated. It is designed to bring the president down. It involves the Democratic Party. It involves the former president. It involves the losing candidate. It involves shadowy dark money groups. It involves members of the deep state. You have to understand that the Democrats believed they could no longer lose a national election. They believe they have cobbled together a supermajority by slicing people into little groups and banding them together on presidential election years and using $1 billion to turn them out. That each and every presidential election, and from here on out, because of illegal immigration and its effect, ultimately producing Democratic voters, if not from illegal alien voters, which is a controversial subject we won't touch today, but certainly from the fact that the huge growing population, which ultimately produces, under current law, additional Americans, as each American is born to those who came here illegally, this creates a supermajority. At least that's the plan. That was what was in the mind of the Democrats. And I don't need to tell you that I thought she would win. And every single solitary lucid expert thought she would win, with the exception of two people who didn't use polling data and used other methods. Other than that, every single solitary expert got it dead wrong, including the premier expert in all of this, Nate Silver, who never gets it wrong. So Trump's remarkable victory stunned the political world, and they went right to work on the hard left to bring him down. There is an ongoing effort by elements of your government and people who call themselves Americans to bring down an elected president of the United States. And I don't care how you feel about Trump, that's wrong. It's anti-American, and it has to be stopped. How does it all relate to the latest controversy? Young Donald Trump Jr., dumber than dirt. A young man with more money than a young man should have. And frankly, let's give Donnie Jr. a little credit. He could be out on an island sipping pina coladas, doing absolutely nothing. But instead, he decided to run a presidential campaign for which he was grossly underqualified. And of course, he engaged in some activity which made him look bad, made his father look bad, made our country look bad, and demonstrated both his naivete and his complete and total lack of judgment. Just no judgment at all. The young man doesn't belong in a position where the appearance of impropriety alone should be eschewed. And let's face it, I'm going to say a lot of things here, but I'm not defending Donald Trump Jr. I don't see the illegality that the crackpots are screaming about, because the law is the law. And you have law and you have facts. You apply the facts to the law, and you either have a violation of law or you do not. You do not. Right now, under the facts known in the public at the time I'm yelling at this computer, have facts sufficient for the violation of any law, let alone treason or some significant law. At the end of the day, what you have is Donald Trump Jr. being a dummy, a moron, looking bad and trying to find some way to help his father win an election. Anyway, win by any means. That's who they are, and they don't care. And you know what? I care. I actually do care. Nobody wanted Hillary Clinton to lose this election more than me. Nobody. But win by any means? I don't think so. Collaborating with Russians? I don't think so. Okay? Americans ought to get that. But we have to now ask ourselves, what on earth is going on in this country? And how is it all connected and interrelated? How long was the Obama administration spying on Trump and Trump associates, unmasking U.S. citizens innocently caught up in spying operations? Who was involved in all of that? Does that have anything to do with Hillary being concerned about hanging from nooses? And this latest controversy, it is the most grossly misplayed, misunderstood controversy I've ever seen. I have read these email exchanges from what is clearly Russian agents on behalf of a Russian government. Nobody denies that. But when you read the actual email, what do they promise young dumb Trump? They promise him official documents that, quote, by the way, quote, official documents, close quote, that, quote, incriminate, close quote, Hillary for her dealings with Russia. That's a little bit different than the media is playing. The media is telling you essentially that some shadowy figures, probably hackers, were going to give some dirt to Donald Trump Jr. on the Clintons. Well, dirt? No, they actually promised them official documents. What are those documents? Why hasn't anybody asked about what those documents are, who has them, and how do we get our hands on them? Because I'd like to see official Russian documents that, quote, incriminate Hillary Clinton for her dealings in Russia. Again, very interesting subject in these emails. Now, what does a lucid campaign manager of an American candidate do? He receives that email, turns around and says, hey, thanks for reaching out. Here's the number of the Federal Bureau of Investigations. This sounds serious. We hope it gets the look that law enforcement should give it. Thanks for contacting us. We'll be in touch if necessary. That's it. That's all Donnie had to do. End of narrative, end of story. He was dumb. He remains dumb. He changes his story, which makes him look both dumb and guilty of something. But now we understand that the Russian lawyer involved in this is part of a Democratic front group. She has worked closely with Democrats before. She was given some form of special visa to come to this country after the United States of America denied her entry originally. Now, I want you to think about something. You are a foreign national. You've been denied entry into this country. You have shadowy ties to the communist government of Russia, right? Who do you pick up the phone and call to get the entire federal bureaucracy to turn around and say, whoops-a-daisy, we're wrong. Come on in. In fact, we're going to give you a special visa just for you. So you could show up just in time for a meeting with the guy who's running against the guy or the gal that we're supporting. The whole thing stinks. It's unbelievable how bad it stinks. Who approved this visa? Who took that phone call? Why did she get it? Why did she get in the country? We ought to know that. Because I'll tell you what, I don't know but a handful of Americans on the planet Earth who can make a phone call and change the gears of a federal bureaucracy to issue a visa to someone who had been denied one under these set of circumstances. The Obama administration, through the Department of Justice, Loretta Lynch, who has taken the fifth on testifying on a whole host of matters, by the way, her group, her agency, highly politicized, highly partisan. Someone in there issued this visa to this woman with clear connections to the Democratic Party, clear connections to the Russians. I don't know. Maybe when Barack Obama told the former Russian president that he needed a little more flexibility after he won re-election, he was talking about a little more flexibility to help the Russians. I don't know what he was talking about. Here's what I do know. It appears on its face that this woman, together with the Russian government, and maybe with the help of Democrats and their approval, were trying to run a sting operation to set up Donald Trump, and they picked the right guy because they picked a dummy. And if you want to run a sting operation, run it on a dummy and an opportunist. And that's exactly what they did. But the entire situation stinks. And look, investigate Donald Trump Jr. all day long. He earned it. He keeps lying about it. He deserves to be investigated. No one denies that. But I want to know, who is this woman? What is her connections to the Democratic Party? What is the Democratic Party's connections to all of this? Who approved her visa? Oh, by the way, Vladimir Putin, what are these official documents? Did they ever exist? And what was, in fact, given at that meeting? We need to know all of these things. And it's not just about Donald Trump. We have to start to wonder if this entire war on Trump, from the radical left, the alt-left, the BLM left, the crazy Soros-funded people, the pink hat wearers, the deep state federal bureaucrats who are trying to undermine this president, all of these folks working in unison since the morning of his election to topple our government. Why? Why are they working so hard to get rid of Trump, besides the fact that Trump is an insufferable fool, unqualified for the job? Could it be that if he ever gets his hands fully on this federal government, and that we ever dig deep in and root out the deep state leftists, we find out something far more sinister about the Democratic Party, about their efforts to undermine our democracy, and about this deep state coup. Does it sound radical? You bet it sounds radical. But it's not crazy. Oh no. There are connections here on both sides of the equation that involve Democrats in Russia, the Trumps and Russian connections, and this is a high-stakes game of political power that involves toppling a duly elected president. Yes, if you're a leftist, if you're a radical leftist, if you're a moderate leftist, you should be interested in an investigation on Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump Jr. and Mr. Trump. But if you're an American of that ilk or any other ilk, conservative, moderate, Republican, alt-right, or whatever label it is that you put on yourself or others put on you, you ought to be interested in the full story, the whole story. What's really going on here? Why on earth was Hillary Clinton worried about hanging from a noose if she lost? Did she really say that? I don't know. How the heck would I know? I know that thing circulated the internet a million times, but here's the fascinating thing about it. Can't prove that she said it, but every single action of her party, her surrogates, her funders, every single action since the morning after the election has been designed to take this president down. And why on earth would that be the case? It's one thing to oppose a president and his policies and philosophy. This is an active effort at a coup. And we have to ask ourselves why. So maybe she didn't say that. Maybe she didn't say, we'll all hang from nooses, right? Maybe she didn't. But why have they been working since November 9th to take this president down, to have impeachment, to topple the government, to stop the appointments? This isn't politics as usual. This isn't normal. States talking about secession. We haven't had this since the last Civil War. And now we have to start asking ourselves, who knows what about what? Why are they so desperate to get the hands of power away from Trump and the Republicans? Who's hiding what? What are the Trumps hiding? What are the Obamas hiding? What's Loretta Lynch hiding? What does Hillary really know? Radical? Maybe. Maybe it is. But you know what? Take off your partisan hat. Take off your Democrat hat, your Republican hat, your moderate hat, your I don't give a damn hat, and put your American hat on. Put your thinking hat on. And think about, why are people doing the things they're doing? Somebody, maybe a lot of people, are hiding something. And I'm not just interested in hearing one side. I want to know what everybody's hiding, because I'm an American. And at some point, we have to restore some semblance of a republic founded on the principles of our Constitution and the distribution of power and the limits of government. Because right now, power is consolidated in and among the parties and the elite. The federal bureaucracy holds too much of it. The judiciary is out of control. The president doesn't seem up to the task of even getting his hands around this control. Doesn't have any self-control. We got problems here, people. I don't know who's going to hang from nooses, but I know this. It's a bigger issue than we know. And there are more people involved. And I promise you this, just like any divorce that's ever taken place in the history of this country, even the one that seems so one-sided that everyone agrees, there's blame to go all the way around here. Blame for the Democrats, blame for the Republicans, blame for the liberals, blame for the conservatives, blame for the progressives, blame for those, Nazi Antifa crowd. The blame is everywhere. Let's find out the facts, because right now it looks like the Democrats and the Russians colluded to try to set the Trumps up in a sting. And it certainly looks like the Trumps had a cozy relationship with the Russians. And it looks like, and it shouldn't surprise anybody, they'd have done anything to win. Whoo, shocker, right? Kardashian election 2016. By the way, all of this isn't a reflection of Trump and Clinton. They're a reflection of us. Listen, that's the bat phone. Now they're after me too. You've heard it from the committed conservative. You'll hear from him again. I don't know who's going to hang from nooses, but it's time that this country find out what's really going on. That's all for Fired Up Friday. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week.